According to Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, human rights are norms that aspire to protect all people everywhere from severe political, legal, and social abuses. Examples of human rights are the right to freedom of religion, the right to a fair trial when charged with a crime, the right not to be tortured, and the right to education. Now, the most obvious way in which human rights come into existence is as norms of national and international law that are created by enactment, custom, and judicial decisions. At the international level, human rights norms exist because of treaties that have turned them into international law. The great technological developments in the context of artificial intelligence, computer science, and robotics make it quite probable that we will see, within the next few decades, the advent of artificial intelligent and highly autonomous robots with capabilities comparable to those of human beings. As such, examples of how technology can be used as a powerful tool for human rights are ever expanding. Newer technologies such as robotics, artificial intelligence, and automation have the potential to make significant positive contributions to the promotion and protection of human rights. At the same time, however, rapid development in these technologies raise serious questions about potential adverse human rights impacts and the future of work and rights of workers. The role of businesses who will both create and utilize new technologies is a critical issue. Will the private sector develop and deploy technologies in a way that is consistent with respect for human rights and that builds in appropriate safeguards to prevent and mitigate negative human rights outcomes? At the same time, governments must also focus on their duty and examine how to ensure the businesses act responsibly. So, what must be done? The growth of the said technologies raises important questions about whether our current policies, legal systems, and documentation and advocacy strategies are sufficient to mitigate the human rights risks that may result, many of which are still unknown. The following examines the potential and actual human rights risks posed by these technologies and how the human rights field can respond by exploring the following questions. First question: how can technology be a powerful force in support of human rights, and what are the key human rights risks associated with the rapid expansion of newer technologies such as robotics, AI, and automation? Second, how can norms and approaches in the business and human rights field, including use of the UN Guiding Principles on Business and Human Rights, help prevent or mitigate human rights risks of new technologies and hold companies developing these new technologies accountable? Third, what actions can rights advocates take to ensure that technological advances do not intensify inequality for those who are already among the most marginalized? And fourth, how does the deployment and development of these new technologies impact sustainable development and the promotion of human rights in the global south? Ethics certainly creates a buzz in the business world. Ethical issues such as how we treat others, use information, engage with employees, manage resources, approach sustainability, and impact the world around us all affect how we view companies. In fact, the inappropriate treatment of people and the communities we live in are often the subject of scrutiny and can signal the difference between business success or failure. That's why businesses often strive for ethical decision-making and processes. On the other hand, AI is one of the technologies that could revolutionize the world. Some people call it the electricity of the 21st century. Researchers and professionals need to be aware of the ethical and social implications this technology possesses. We are responsible for making robots and AI systems that help and empower humanity. With that in mind, here are the 10 ethical issues of AI and robotics that can be seen in an article written by Miguel Gonzalez Fierro. First off is the misinformation and fake news. The flow of misinformation, together with our natural inability of perceiving reality based on evidence, is a threat to having an informed democracy. For example, the rumors and fake news on social media caused the influx of people at different vaccination sites in the capital city of Manila last August. Also, recent advances in computer vision make it possible to completely fake a video of an influential person wherein someone may use it to misinform others, right? So the main question is how institutions are going to address this threat. The scientific revolution in the 18th century and the industrial revolution in the 19th marked a complete change in society. For thousands of years before it, economic growth was practically negligible. During the 19th and 20th century, the level of social development was remarkable. In the 19th century, there was a group in the UK called the Luddites that protested against the automation of textile industry by destroying machinery. Since then, a recurrent fear has been that automation and technological advance will produce mass unemployment. Even though that prediction has proven to be incorrect, it is a fact that there has been a painful job displacement. A famous accounting firm estimates by 2030, around 30% of the jobs will be automatized. Under these circumstances, governments and companies should provide workers with tools to adapt to these changes by supporting education and relocating jobs. The importance of privacy is all over the news in the past years. In the report of Insider last April 2021, it was found out that Facebook users' phone numbers and personal data have been leaked online. The exposed data includes the personal information of over 533 million Facebook users from 106 countries, including over 32 million records on users in the US, 11 million on users in the UK, and 6 million on users in India. It includes their phone numbers, face IDs, full names, locations, birth dates, bios, and some cases, email addresses. So privacy is a human right and should be protected against misuse. Cybersecurity is one of the biggest concerns of governments and companies, especially banks. A robbery of $1 billion was reported in banks from Russia, Europe, and China in 2015, and $500 million was stolen from the cryptocurrency exchange CoinCheck. AI can definitely help protect against these susceptibilities, but it can also be used by hackers to find new sophisticated ways of attacking institutions. Like any other technological system, AI systems can make mistakes. It is a common misconception that robots are infallible and infinitely precise. Image recognition is one of the hot topics of research in data science. If you're going to build a machine that can respond to the environment and react to our needs, it needs to see it our way. In 2015, Google learned this the hard way when it recently launched the image recognition features in its Google Photos application, powered by artificial intelligence and neural networks. The image recognition features of Google Photos are designed to identify specific objects or specific people in the given images. In the case of Google Photos, a user got offended when an image of his two black friends was tagged as gorillas. He decided to take this matter to Twitter, and Google apologized. There is an ongoing debate about controlling the development of military robots and banning autonomous weapons. While some support autonomous weapon systems with moral arguments, others base their opposition on moral grounds. Still, others assert that moral arguments against autonomous weapon systems are misguided. In July 2015, an open letter calling for a ban on autonomous weapons was released at an international joint conference on artificial intelligence. The letter warns, quote, artificial intelligence technology has reached a point where the deployment of such system is practically, if not legally, feasible within years, not decades, and the stakes are high. Autonomous weapons have been described as the third revolution in warfare after gunpowder and nuclear arms, unquote. We have to work hard to avoid bias and discrimination when developing AI algorithms. A specific example was face detection using HAR cascades, which has a lower detection rate in dark-skinned people than in light-skinned people. This happens because the algorithm is designed to find a double T pattern in a grayscale image of the person's face, corresponding to the eyebrows, nose, and mouth. This pattern is more difficult to find in a person with dark skin. HAR cascades are not racist. How can an algorithm be, right? But many people can feel insulted. When programming these algorithms, we need to be mindful of their limitations, transparent with users by explaining how the algorithm works, or use a more effective technique with dark-skinned people. Existing laws have not been developed with AI in mind. However, that does not mean that AI-based products and services are unregulated. As suggested by Brad Smith, the Chief Legal Officer of Microsoft, quote, governments must balance support for innovation with the need to ensure consumer safety by holding the markers of AI systems responsible for harm caused by unreasonable practices, unquote. Policymakers, researchers, and professionals should work together to make sure that AI provides a benefit to humanity. Some tech leaders have shown concerns about the possible threats of AI. One example was Elon Musk, who claimed that AI is riskier than North Korea. These words generated strong criticism from the scientific community. Superintelligence is generally regarded as a state where a robot starts to recursively improve itself, reaching a point that easily surpasses the most intelligent human by orders of magnitude. Some enthusiasts, like Ray Kurzweil, believe that by 2045, we will reach that state. Like Francois Chollet, believe it is also possible. Should robots have rights? If we think of a robot as an advanced washing machine, then no. However, if robots were able to have emotions or feelings, then the answer is not that clear. One of the pioneers of AI, Marvin Minsky, believed that there is no fundamental difference between humans and machines, and that general AI won't possible unless robots have self-conscious emotions. A suggestion in the debate around robot rights is the robots should be granted the right to exist and perform their mission, but this should be linked to the duty of serving humans. There is a lot of controversy around this area. Meanwhile, in 2017, if you know about Sophia the robot, she was granted citizenship of Saudi Arabia, and even Will Smith had a conversation with her. And if I remember it correctly, Jimmy Fallon, in his Tonight Show, had this robot in his show. And technically, she is just like a human when you converse with her, because she was dubbed as a social robot. And if you're curious about her, you can always check her video on YouTube. Just type Sophia the robot. Now, the results that AI produces depend on how it is designed and what data it uses. Both the design and data can be intentionally or unintentionally biased. For example, some important aspects of an issue might not be programmed into an algorithm, or might be programmed to reflect and replicate structural biases. In addition, the use of numbers to represent complex social reality could make the AI seem factual and precise when it isn't. This is sometimes referred to as math washing. If not done properly, AI could lead to decisions influenced by data on ethnicity, sex, age when hiring or firing, offering loans, or even in criminal proceedings. Though these technologies are being designed to think for themselves, certain laws and universal guidelines should be implemented to prevent any mistakes on the part of the humans and machines.